It's pretty wild to think about just how fragile our modern world really is. It turns out that a tiny, tiny stretch of water, one most of us would struggle to even find on a map, basically holds the key to the entire global economy. And today, well, that key is turning. So we're going to break down exactly what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, why it matters so much to you, and what could possibly happen next.
So it all kicked off with this just an absolutely stunning declaration from Iran. They said it was a direct response to some recent airstrikes on their military facilities. And so Tehran announced the strait was, for all intents and purposes, shut down. This wasn't just some political threat, you guys. This was a move that basically challenges the entire global order. And believe me, the markets reacted instantly.
And let's be super clear here, this is not some distant regional squabble. We're talking about major shipping companies immediately halting all traffic through the area. Flights are being rerouted. What happens in this one little sliver of the sea sends these massive shockwaves across the whole planet, and it ends up impacting everything from the price of gas in your car to the stuff you buy at the local store. And yeah, that economic impact was immediate. I mean, look at this. Within just a few hours of the announcement, oil prices went through the roof. Brent crude, which is the big international benchmark, it shot up nearly 8%. This is the first and honestly the most obvious sign of just how incredibly fragile our global energy supply chain actually is. Okay, so this immediate shock to the system begs a huge question, right? How on earth can one narrow channel have so much power over all of us? Well, to really get what's happening right now, we need to understand the geography and the just mind-boggling volume of energy that flows through this one spot. The Strait of Hormuz is the absolute textbook definition of a choke point. In fact, it's pretty much the most important one in the entire world. The best way to think of it is like the jugular vein of the global energy economy. It's this narrow, super strategic passage that, if you squeeze it, has very, very few practical alternatives. You just have to look at it on a map to see why it's so important. It's squeezed right between Iran and Oman, and it's the only way for tankers from huge oil producers like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Qatar to get to the open ocean. And get this, at its narrowest point, the actual shipping lane is just a couple of miles wide. That's it. Now, this is the number that really, really matters. 20%. Just let that sink in for a second. 1/5 of all the oil consumed on the entire planet passes right through this little channel. It is a staggering, almost unbelievable concentration of the world's energy supply in one tiny spot. And if you want to put that 20% into perspective, it breaks down to an average of 17 million barrels of oil moving through the strait every single day. We're talking about roughly 14 massive supertankers a day, all of them funneling through the exact same narrow shipping lanes. So where's all that oil headed? Well, the vast, vast majority of it, something like 85%, is going straight to booming markets in Asia. This means countries like China, India, Japan, and South Korea are critically, and I mean critically, dependent on that strait staying open just so their economies can function. Now, a big standoff over a shipping route might seem like it came out of nowhere, but this whole confrontation did not happen in a vacuum. To really get a handle on today's crisis, we've got to look back. The Strait of Hormuz has been a flashpoint for decades. It's a place where regional fights have consistently blown up onto the world stage. And this history is so important. Back in the 80s, during the Iran-Iraq War, you had the so-called tanker war, where both sides were just attacking oil ships. Then in 1988, the US Navy and Iran clashed directly in a huge naval battle. Fast forward through the 2000s, and these tense standoffs became pretty common. And then in 2019, there was this whole series of mysterious attacks on tankers that put everybody on edge. So what's happening now is just the latest and maybe the most serious chapter in this long, messy story. Okay, so now that we've got the history and the incredible stakes clear, let's break down the key players in this high-stakes game. What does each side actually want, and what's motivating them? At its heart, this is really the core of the conflict. For Iran, its control over the strait's northern coast is its ultimate trump card. When it's facing sanctions or military pressure, threatening to mess with shipping is how it forces the world to pay attention. On the other side, for the United States, the goal is simple and unwavering. Make sure there's freedom of navigation. Washington has made it crystal clear that any attempt to close the strait is a red line, because keeping this waterway open is vital for global trade and stability. But this isn't just a two-player game, not by a long shot. You've got Oman, which shares control of the strait and often plays this key diplomatic role. You have the Asian economies, who are the main customers and are just desperate for things to stay stable. Then there are the global shipping lines themselves, who have to take on all the immediate risk and cost. And, of course, you have the US Navy's Fifth Fleet, which is permanently based right nearby and behind with a specific job of keeping these sea lanes safe. So all of this brings us to the most important question of all. What happens now? Can a blockade like this actually hold? Are there any workarounds? Let's take a look at the potential fallout. You know, what most experts are saying is that a complete long-term shutdown is actually pretty unlikely. Why? Well, not only would it risk a massive military response, but Iran's own economy needs the Strait to stay open for its own trade. A full closure would be, as one official put it, economic suicide. So, okay, if you can't go through the Strait, can you just go around it? Well, yes and no. There are a couple of major pipelines that were built for this exact kind of scenario. There's one in the UAE and another that cuts across Saudi Arabia. But here's the reality check. While those pipelines are super important, their combined capacity is less than 4 million barrels a day. Remember that number from earlier? 17 million barrels flow through the Strait every day. These pipelines are like a relief valve. They are not a replacement. They can't even come close to handling that massive volume of tanker traffic. And that really leaves us with the big picture. This whole crisis in the Strait of Hormuz is just a powerful real-time reminder of how connected we all are. It shows how a fight in one narrow channel can directly hit billions of people thousands of miles away. And it forces all of us to ask a really tough question. In this incredibly connected world, just how fragile is the system that we all depend on?